All right, welcome everyone to the Georgia Public Library Service update this morning. I'm so excited. We've got a big group here this morning to kick off day 2 of the GALILEO annual conference. I'm very excited to be joined this morning by Julie Walker, our State Librarian and Vice Chancellor for Libraries and Archives. You can feel free to pop any questions you may have into the chat or ask them via the Zoom Q&A function, and we will make sure that your questions are answered. With that, Julie, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Thank you so much, Angela, and good morning, everyone. Welcome to day 2 of the GALILEO conference. I've been really excited about this all summer and just very happy to see everyone here this morning. We just want to take a little bit of time to give you an update on everything that's been going on in the public library world. And Angela, I think we'll go to the next slide if we could, please. And I do want to echo what Angela said about questions. Please feel free to ask anything that you're interested in. We can take those as we go along or answer them at the end. So we'd love to make this a conversation. I have never in my life been more grateful for our Georgia Library community than I was this year. I think probably everyone here knows that we had an interesting and challenging legislative session, kind of different to anyone that I have experienced before. We were very fortunate to be able to avoid some legislation that may have been detrimental to our public libraries, our K-12 libraries, and our university system libraries, as well as our graduate program in library and information science at Valdosta State. And it was truly a group effort. It truly was the entire village working very carefully and thoughtfully with our legislators to provide solid information about the consequences of legislation and of discussing with them all of the good things that are going on in libraries. That was our overarching goal, was to continue to keep the spotlight on everything good that our libraries do for their communities across Georgia. It really paid off for us that we've always had good, strong relationships under the Gold Dome. We've worked very hard over the years to develop those relationships, to have real, genuine conversations with legislators. And I'm very pleased with the way things turned out this year. Of course, legislation can reemerge next year. We were at the end of a 2-year session this year, so anything would have to be reintroduced. We start with a clean slate next year. We are always on alert for anything introduced that is going to impact our libraries in any way. And we do plan, as we always do in the summers, to have personal conversations with key legislators and appropriators throughout the summer back in their districts, so that we can lay a good foundation for next year's session. We were really pleased with the funding for libraries, that it remained strong, because as you can well imagine, that was fairly a slender tightrope to walk when we were opposing someone's legislation at the same time we were asking that very same person for money. So it was tricky, but again, keeping the focus on the good things that we do with that money, that we are very good stewards of any funding that we are allocated. So the public libraries funding formula has hit a record high of over $50 million for the coming year, for FY25, and over $12 million for capital outlay projects. A good bit of that is funding for full new construction projects. That we maintain a list of library systems that have their local match money in hand and are ready to do a construction project pending a grant from the state. We do have a list in order, but they oftentimes do not follow the order of our list. They select the projects that they wish to fund in the year, and we were really happy to get several construction projects, as well as funding for major repair and renovation. We also at GPLS maintain a list of MRR projects, whether it's HVAC systems or roofs or ADA compliance pieces for our buildings. And we take the amount of money that is allocated and go down that list and help to maintain these buildings that the state has helped to build in prior years. So that's always something we really focus on and ask for, because it touches many libraries in many communities and allows us to extend their useful life. We also received technology funding to refresh the technology in our libraries. So once again, we were very happy that they were acknowledged the importance of technology in our libraries by allocating that funding. The formula funding included a couple of really important things this year. Public libraries experienced a sharp increase in their share of the state health benefit plan. And we were really pleased to be able to convince the legislators to fund that increase for the state reimbursed positions that GPLS pays for out in the libraries. That was really important. Those positions were also included in the 4% salary increase for state employees. So those were two big chunks added to that. We maintained our materials funding at 70 cents per capita, which goes out to every library system. So all in all, it turned out to be a really successful session. And I will note that this photograph is a picture of our group from the Georgia's Public Library of the Year, the Cobb County Library System. They had a wonderful crew attend Library Day at the Capitol to celebrate their award, as well as our other awards that we present each year. And we had a wonderful, large, enthusiastic group at the Capitol for Library Day, where we serve our varsity hot dogs out in the street between the Legislative Office Building and the Capitol and talk to lots of legislators. I appreciate everybody who takes the time to come to that event, which is sponsored by the Georgia Council for Public Libraries. GLA is an important component of that as well. And I invite everybody here, if you can possibly come next year once we get that scheduled. We never know when it's going to be because we never know when they're going to open up the reservation book and allow us to book a day to do that. But it's typically in February, and it's a wonderful time to promote libraries at the Capitol. All right, Angela, we can go. Wonderful. We were really thrilled to produce a new document this year called the GPLS Year in Review. It came out this spring and it's available on our website, georgialibraries.org. This was a piece that we really wanted to use to share with funders at all levels, the city, the counties, the state, and even our federal funders, showing the impact of what we do with that funding that they allocate to us, and giving lots of really good facts and figures and numbers. As you can see here, the high-speed internet is something we've talked about for years and years ago. Georgia was the first state in the country where every public library offered high-speed internet, and we retained that, and we've increased our speeds and we've increased our capacity because we continue to know how important that is for Georgians across our state. I find myself frequently saying at the Capitol that all of us in Atlanta probably think everybody has internet and a computer at home, and that is absolutely not true in so many areas of Georgia. We certainly learned that during COVID, and we continue to learn it today, that there are people coming to our libraries for whom our high-speed internet and our machines are an absolute lifeline. A lot of our libraries offer some really good technology classes on a variety of topics, and those continue to be well attended. So I'm very pleased about that. And over 9,700 public access computers in our libraries. We also continue our device lending program that really ramped up during COVID, lending out Chromebooks, Wi-Fi hotspots, and launch pads that are tablets preloaded with kids software, student software, and the lending in those still remains very strong. Next slide, please. We're also, along with the entire state of Georgia, really focusing on literacy. As you know, we have created in Georgia the Georgia Council on Literacy, which is a 3-year-long project dedicated to raising our early literacy rates, our 3rd grade reading levels. And libraries have always done this. This is nothing new to us, but one of our goals is to remind everyone of the important role that libraries play in increasing literacy in small children, in larger children, in families all over the state. So we use several diverse sources of funding to provide our early literacy programs. We have had some private grants as well as state and federal money to do, of course, summer reading, but also really year-round reading. So as you see, we have a very impressive number of children that participated in children's programming at the local libraries. I'm always so impressed when I scroll social media and see all of the really creative programming going on in our libraries. So I hope everybody here on this call has a chance to pop into their library this summer. One, to see how busy it is, see how packed the parking lot is, but two, to see what the fun things going on to encourage families and children to come into the library, to enjoy the library, to walk out with a big old stack of books and enjoy reading this summer. We are working and to continue and grow our play card program. As most of you all are probably aware, our play card is a virtual library card that allows every student in a school district to receive a limited card that allows them to check out up to 5 physical materials, but to access all of our virtual materials and all of our electronic materials. And the great thing about this is this reaches children whose parents might not bring them to the library and actually sign them up for a full library card. This at least gives them an introduction to the library, access to some resources, and the possibility to very easily walk into the library and convert that to a full card. We use the student ID number from the school district to make this card happen. So it has to be implemented one school district at a time across the state. But we are very diligently working through our list of school districts who have requested to participate, and we're really, really pleased with the success of that. We have rebooted our 1,000 books before kindergarten, and I really hope that some of you can look at some of the Facebook pages from some of our public libraries, because they're doing such fun things with the 1,000 books program. A couple of our library systems have little signs and posters for the kid to hold up for every 100 books that they get to. So they hold up their 100 poster and their 200 poster, and they are just the most heartwarming things to see that families are reading their tiniest little children books to reach that 1,000 books before kindergarten. So another program that we're really thrilled about. Hi, Angela, one more slide, please. Another thing that we do, and I mentioned in the funding slide, our capital projects and our buildings of libraries. We are really, really committed to helping communities build new libraries and also revitalize the existing structures. So GPLS, with our expert team that we have in our group, serves as an advisor between the communities and the state funding agency, help them navigate the funding process with planning and budgeting for new construction or renovation. And once again, it's one of the most fun parts of my job and all of our jobs at GPLS when we get to go and cut a ribbon or break ground on a new library and really participate in the excitement in every community when that happens. It's so much fun to see how much people value our libraries and appreciate having a new library. And as you can see, we are really, really fortunate in Georgia to have that state investment in our facilities. This is a big topic of conversation nationally among the state librarians, and they are so envious of Georgia because the state has made that commitment to continue to build new libraries, to continue to renovate and revitalize the libraries that we already have. So I'm really, really thrilled with that. One new thing that has happened over the course of the last few years, we have now had 2 projects, library building projects, funded through congressionally directed spending grants. These are the grants that our senators and our representatives are able to pick and choose projects throughout the state and put them into an appropriations bill at the federal level. 2 years ago, a library in Milledgeville was funded by Senator John Ossoff's office. And just this year, a new library at the Oglethorpe Mall branch of the Live Oak Public Libraries in Savannah was selected for funding, again, through Senator Ossoff. And let me tell you, one of the most thrilling days of my life was when I was driving and my phone rang and I answered it and said, "Julie, this is Senator Ossoff." And I nearly ran into a ditch, but it was fantastic for him to actually call and give us the good news about that grant and say that he can't wait to come and cut the ribbon on that new library. I'm equally excited to note that some of our other libraries who have applied in the next year's cycle for those congressionally directed spending grants are also in the mix and have moved on from the first stage to the second stage. So we're very, very hopeful that this is yet a new funding stream for libraries in the state. All right, next slide, please. I'll pause for a quick breath and see if anybody has any questions up to this point, or we will just keep on talking.
I'm not seeing any in the chat or the Q&A at this point, but please do feel free to pop those in if you would like Julie to talk about anything in more detail or have any particular questions.
Thank you. As you can see, again, we're still looking through our 2023 year in review. So our total funding for public library services is absolutely amazing. People often ask me about the balance between state funding and local funding in libraries. As you can see, we're at about 80% of the funding in the state of Georgia for public libraries comes from local sources. Those can be counties, cities, and boards of education who contribute to the funding of public libraries. So public libraries are fundamentally a local responsibility. That state funding, while it is incredibly important, is more intended to enhance the services that the local government offers. Library employees in Georgia are not state employees. They are employees of their library system. We also are very fortunate to receive about 3% of our funding is federal funding, but that is really important because in Georgia, we use that funding for statewide services for things like Hines and our share of GALILEO and the Courier Service and some of our IT and youth services initiatives, and of course, our all-important Georgia Library for the Blind and Print Disabled services. So all three of those together allow us to provide all of the wonderful services that we provide. Our state funding is very high on the scale nationally, and that's why we consider it one of our most important responsibilities to maintain those relationships at the state level, because I think that really does boost us over the top. Next slide, please. So our economic impact in the state is really important. And you can see how just these numbers are kind of mind-boggling when you look at over 32 million total material circulation, the number of in-person visits and website visits to our libraries, the number of nearly 5 million Georgians have a library card. And it's so easy for me to sell our library services because I do see the impact in that. And when somebody says, do we need libraries anymore? Really, all I have to do is point to some of these numbers and say, we absolutely do. Georgians appreciate and value their library services. They utilize what we are offering. I love that we have this whole cohort of our library community who can talk about the great things that we're doing. I've been fortunate enough recently to do a couple of radio interviews and a couple of newspaper interviews, and I'm always interested in any reporter or interviewer being surprised at some of the services that we offer. I know that one of the surprises is always the downloadable audiobooks or ebooks, because I think people think that they have to pay for that. That's not something that you can get free from your library. So we always try to emphasize services like that. Also, some of our wonderful GALILEO databases, which I'm going to talk about in just a minute. So next slide, please. I am just thrilled that all of our libraries are under one umbrella within the university system of Georgia. We have so many valuable services here, and this slide just shows all of the units that collaborate with each other to make us as successful as we are. I'm thrilled to work with the Georgia Archives. I encourage you to keep an eye on their website. They have some wonderful lunch and learn series, some other programming. Every time I talk to them, they've got something new going on. So it's a treasure that, again, a lot of people in Georgia don't really know about. But I've been thrilled since our units all came together a couple of years ago to learn more about Affordable Learning Georgia, to interact with our GIL colleagues and follow along as they have the excitement of migrating to a whole new system. It's exciting times to be in Georgia, and I really value these collaborations, as I said earlier, this year more than ever. Next slide, please, Angela. A couple of the interesting things that I want to mention, we have had eRead Kids for a number of years now, and that is a collection of ebooks for young students. And I think particularly in the summertime, that's a wonderful thing that we enjoy emphasizing, that, you know, obviously if you've got a child riding in the back seat, chances are they've got their iPad with them. But if they can intersperse reading some books along with all those computer games, that's just a win for everyone. And I think, again, a real contributor to our literacy efforts. So we continue to grow our eRead Kids collection. I know that probably you've already heard some about the Palace project, where we are just delighted to be able to aggregate a lot of our e-content into one place to make it that much easier and more accessible to Georgians who want to use those resources. We love Mango Languages. And again, that's another thing that I mention a lot of times in interviews, that people don't realize. They think they have to go pay for a language program if they're going to be traveling internationally in the summer. But Mango Languages is such a wonderful resource that we're able to offer through Galileo. And we were particularly thrilled this year to add American Sign Language to our Mango subscription. And I know that we're already getting a great response for that. That was something that we have been wanting to do for a very long time. Our Georgia Gateway Benefits Kiosk is another new feature of our public library. Currently, over 300 of our libraries feature these kiosks that you can see in this picture, that our smart IT folks put together. This was a collaboration with the Department of Human Services to allow people to do some self-service work on some of their benefits, like their WIC benefits, SNAP benefits, a whole host of those state social services benefits that normally people might have to call or go into a DHS office to make changes to their benefits package. But these are really easy to use self-service kiosks that are right there in the library that people can come in. And the benefit here, of course, is there's at least one library in every county. People know where it is. It's easy to park. We have very convenient hours that include nights and weekends. So this makes it a whole lot easier for Georgians to manage their own benefits. We have about 100 more of these yet to roll out, so we really will have them in most communities in Georgia. It was a long process to put together both the technology and the whole infrastructure around this. And I greatly appreciate Angela Stanley and Daniel Ziegler working with the Department of Human Services to make this happen. I've talked about our experience passes in the past, and this program just continues to get better. As you might remember, this started with a partnership with the Georgia State Parks and Historic Sites. People can go to the library and check out a pass so that they can get free entry into all those wonderful places. And I have to say, I'm one of the biggest users of this. When we want to go hiking on the weekends, go grab that pass at the library and off we go. But as you can see on this slide, we have added more and more and more partners. So we continue to partner with Zoo Atlanta and with the Michael C. Carlos Museum at Emory University. But we have more museums, and now we're adding theaters like the Alliance Theater and the Shakespeare Tavern. There's a museum pass that covers several museums in Macon. So wonderful Dustin Landrum, who is our Director of Strategic Partnerships, just continues to forge new partnerships that are going in a lot of different directions and that allow Georgia's families to experience these cultural resources that they may never have visited before. And it's a mutual benefit because then the partners are gaining new clientele all the time. So don't forget, if you're looking for something fun to do this summer, check out your library. These passes are available at every single library in Georgia.
And Julie, we did have one question in the Q&A regarding the GIL move to Folio. And the question is, do you see that move as an opportunity for a more connected and robust Georgia library experience?
I certainly do. I am really thrilled with this because the fact of going with an open source product just opens up new opportunities. And again, we have worked very closely with the GIL libraries. Obviously, Lucy and her team are driving that bus, and as well as the teams at the individual university system libraries. But they very graciously included some of our Pines team along the process, and we continue to watch this really carefully. I don't know if Lucy would like to jump in and address that as well, but we certainly are always, in the last couple of years, we have really been on alert for areas that we can collaborate and cooperate. And Lucy, I see, has put in the chat that we're really hoping that the Open RS resource sharing piece will be a great opportunity to encourage that kind of collaboration amongst all of our libraries.
Thanks, Julie.
Thank you. And we'll go to the next slide. So as I've mentioned, summer reading is in full swing at our libraries. I always tell my libraries I feel a little bit guilty because I kind of take a breath after the legislative session right when they are getting crazy busy for summer reading. But I do thoroughly enjoy going to the libraries and watching some of the wonderful programming, creative programming. I can sometimes skip the ones where they have the live snakes, but other than that, I think it's really great. A number of our libraries are offering summer feeding programs. This is again in partnerships with local agencies who provide breakfasts or lunches, and the library provides the space. So it's a great way to bring new people into the library who can get a nutritious lunch and enjoy a story time or check out some books. Again, I mentioned 1,000 books before kindergarten, and nearly 300 of our public libraries have reinstituted 1,000 books before kindergarten. I love this little guy in this picture getting his little graduation cap for getting his 1,000 books. It's just very, very heartwarming to see this, and it makes me know that we are serving our purpose. We were absolutely thrilled and proud that the Azalea Regional Library System was a finalist for the IMLS National Medal this year. We know that we have spectacular libraries in our state, and it's wonderful to see them recognized at the national level. Next slide, Angela. I'd like to brag a little bit more about some of the wonderful things happening in our libraries. We had two Georgia librarians who were named Library Journal Movers and Shakers, Derek Mosley and Aisha Johnson-Jones. We were so proud of that. We've had movers and shakers from Georgia in the past, and I think we always should. So when that nomination form comes out again, I really encourage you to nominate your colleagues for this. We are doing so much in Georgia that is really admired around the country. I do have the fortunate vantage point of working with the other state librarians. So I can promise you that Georgia is always looked to as a model for excellent library services. There are several important statewide efforts that are going on where our libraries have a seat at the table. I was appointed by Governor Kent to the Georgia Council on Literacy. I'm delighted to be able to represent libraries there and to remind them at every single turn, because obviously the focus is on teaching teachers how to teach literacy. A lot of the focus is on either the university education programs or the continuing education in K-12 schools, but I'm constantly reminding them, remember what's going on in the libraries, and I think that's been really valuable. Angela Stanley was appointed this year by the governor to the Georgia Historical Records Advisory Council. We are delighted to have Angela in that role. Her background makes her the perfect person to serve in that role, and in another idea of nominating your peers and your colleagues, the Georgia Historical Records Advisory Council does their awards each year, and a lot of our public libraries and academic libraries have been represented in those awards. So keep an eye out for that as well. It's great to recognize efforts in that area. The Georgia Technology Authority Advisory Council is another area where both Daniel Ziegler and I serve. As we're looking at broadband, as we're looking at technology grants from the Georgia Technology Authority, as we're working on shaping Georgia's role in broadband access over the course of the next few years. So again, we're really excited to have that seat at the table, and it has certainly paid off when they are trying to balance their books and they realize they've got a chunk of money left at the end of the year. They know they can always turn to me and say, Julie, can the library spend some money? And we say, absolutely, we can certainly do that. I will note that the photograph at the top of this slide is from our trip to Washington, D.C. this spring. We were able to take a delegation to the Voices for Library event. That's the new name for what has been National Library Legislative Day, or the ALA Fly-In. This year, it was a collaborative effort between COSLA, the chief officers of state library agencies, and ALA. And I was so pleased to be joined with a delegation of GPLS staff members and library directors from around the state of Georgia to visit our Senate and House offices on Capitol Hill. I love seeing Senator Warnock with his library magnet and with some of our wonderful team. Planning is underway for next year. If anyone is interested in going to Washington and doing some really important advocacy, please get in touch with us, because we are already thinking about next year and all of the good things that we want to ask for. I think seeing these congressionally directed spending grants is proof that this advocacy is working for libraries. And next slide. More seats at the table. We have Evan Michael Bush, the Director of Youth Services at GPLS, has been appointed to the governing board of the Sandra Dunnigan Deal Center for Early Language and Literacy. Evan is the absolute perfect person to be in this seat and to, again, represent the interests of libraries. I have been asked to serve on the Cultural Heritage Steering Committee for the Digital Public Library of America. You're probably aware that DPLA is looking for a new home for their cultural heritage efforts. And I'm really pleased to represent both Georgia and state librarians on this committee as they evaluate the applications from various organizations who hope to be the new home for the DPLA cultural heritage work. I'll keep you posted on that. We're meeting later this month. We are super excited at GPLS that after years of hoping and wishing and trying to present a program at the Georgia Municipal Association Conference, we are presenting next weekend in Savannah at their annual conference. Our topic is, we're weaving in a couple of things. It's primarily the GMA's wonderful new program, the Mayor's Reading Club, where mayors come to the library and read to children. We think that's a great collaboration to get the city officials more familiar with what we do in libraries, encourage literacy, encourage reading, and let the kids see somebody who's really, I'll never forget when my son was small and he thought meeting the mayor was the greatest thing in the world. So I love this program. So we're presenting. We have a library director, GPLS staff, and a couple of mayors who are going to join us for that program. Nate Roll, our director of planning and construction, is also going to speak about our construction grants, because again, that's something that the mayors and the city managers are very interested in. GPLS always has a booth at the Georgia Municipal Association trade show, as well as the Association of County Commissions of Georgia trade show, so that those officials who are milling around the trade show floor can come and just talk to us, ask any questions that they have, whether it's about construction, whether it's about our library for the blind and print disabled, anything that they want to know. And we have a variety of library directors and GPLS staff there to talk to people, but we're finally now starting to crack that code of getting on the program for those conferences. Next slide. We are very, very committed at GPLS to supporting the staff out in our libraries. We very keenly realize that they are so busy keeping the doors open, dealing with whatever walks through that door and doing all their wonderful programming, that a lot of times it's very difficult to provide the kind of training and support that staff needs. So we want to step in and do that. So a couple of the things that happened this year, we had our tech boot camp. Unfortunately, I was unable to attend that, but everybody tells me it was quite a good time. It was at Great Wolf Lodge. 99 people attended in person and 169 total. So with all 60 of our library systems represented. This is just such a good opportunity for all of these IT people, regardless of their level of training and their years of experience, to talk with each other, to network, to brainstorm solutions, to try out new technologies, to stay up long into the night geeking out over tech things. So this is one of our favorite things to be able to do. We try to do it every other year, and this year's was a great success. We had Story Camp this year. Since COVID, it has been a good long time since we've brought together our youth services staff. And so Evan imagined Story Camp, which would kind of mimic going to summer camp. And it was held at Fort Yargo. And then I was able to visit that, which was great fun. And you walked into the room where it was happening. And it really did feel like you were out at summer camp. And I think they did so many wonderful, creative, hands-on things where they actually got to try things and do things and hear from a number of experts and get great programming ideas, both from the speakers and from each other. We had library financial training again this year, 62 participants representing 45 library systems. We always understand the importance of having good, strong financial management at our libraries. We know that nothing can get us in trouble faster than messing up on the financial side. So we partner with the Carl Vinson Institute of Government, and our finance director, Christopher Evans, puts together a really wonderful, informative program every year for library directors and business managers to keep that financial management strong. We've done marketing mini grants so that our great communications and marketing team led by Deborah Hakes can work with library systems who want to market some of their programs and services, but don't necessarily have the capacity to do it themselves. So we're able to provide some grants for them to do that. We continue to, as I mentioned, add our partnerships, and Christopher Evans also worked with the sickle cell group in the state to provide awareness grants to our libraries. So we are dabbling in a little bit of everything in our libraries, and I feel like we just continue to meet the needs of our communities as they rapidly change. We're ready to try new things anytime that they are necessary. And it's a wonderful partnership with our libraries because we know that they're the ones on the ground. They're the ones that know what their communities need. And we just try to be very responsive and support them in any way we can. Next slide. And that is kind of our wrap up for the year. It once again was an incredibly busy year. I do want to point out that the photograph on the far right is one of our mayors, Mayor Fred Perriman from Madison, Georgia, reading the Mayor's Reading Club. So really excited, and Mayor Perriman will be joining us in that presentation next week. But I appreciate the opportunity to let you know what's going on in the public library world. We love being partners with Galileo and with all of you. We just have an incredibly strong library community here in Georgia, and it's an absolute honor to work with all of you. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I'm not seeing any questions. Oh, we just had one come in. So Monica asks, as a VSU MLIS student and public library employee, thank you for getting your hard work getting us through that rocky patch earlier this year, and all the hard work you continue to do supporting our public libraries and our communities. That is such a wonderful comment. Thank you, Monica.
Thank you so much for those kind words. As I say, it took the whole entire village this year.
Well, I'm not seeing any other questions at this point. We can give it just another moment, but thank you, Julie, for that fantastic recap. We've certainly got a lot going on in every realm of library service. So if there are no questions, got some applause.
Well, it's great to see all of you. I hope you really enjoyed the rest of the conference. I know that Lucy and her team have worked hard to provide a really rich couple of days. Really enjoyed the keynote speaker yesterday, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. And we look forward to seeing you at your library this summer.
Great, thank you. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, you all.